What is going on, Halo fans? Luke the Notable here. Today we're going to be talking about Smart Scope, and is it more beneficial to you to have Smart Scope on the left trigger so it is easier to activate, or is it better for you to keep it on your right thumbstick? When Halo 5 first came out, a lot of you may remember a video I did where I talked about how Bumper Jumper in my opinion was better, and then I collaborated with Proximity, and then I went and said that Hell Jumper was better, meaning having the left trigger be your Smart Scope activation, and since then I have decided to re-up that video. The biggest reason is that I get a ton of comments every single day asking me about my controller settings, what I like to use Smart Scope for, and etc. So I'm going to answer those questions in this video, but primarily I'm going to be talking about Smart Scope. Since Halo CE, the default controller layout has used the right stick clicked in to activate the scope, but now in Halo 5 with the addition of Smart Scope, where every weapon has some form of scope, it is now possible with certain controller layouts like Fish Stick and Hell Jumper to activate your scope with the left trigger, like games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Battlefront, pretty much every other shooter in the genre right now. I think the main reason people don't switch the way they scope in is because that's the way they've always done it. That was the reason that I decided to make a video saying Bumper Jumper is better than Hell Jumper, because Bumper Jumper allows you to click in the right stick to scope, because that was what I had always done, and I kind of figured, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I think objectively there is a little difference between clicking in on the right stick and pulling the left trigger for Smart Scope. The first reason why I like Hell Jumper over Bumper Jumper is because when you're using Bumper Jumper or any other layout where the right stick is your scope, when you scope in you have to push down the right stick, and that could disrupt your aim. When I try to scope in really quickly, or if I'm rushed using that right stick, it may distort my aim a little bit, which could kill me in tight situations. When you have the Smart Scope on the left trigger, it detaches those two actions, which I think makes you more accurate. Also, in my personal opinion, I think the Xbox One controllers have sticks that are a little bit harder to click in than their 360 counterparts. I also believe that left trigger Smart Scope is much more responsive than a right stick Smart Scope. Left trigger Smart Scope allows you to scope and descope just by pulling that trigger down, and when you let it go, the scope goes down. But when you have the right stick click as your Smart Scope, when you click in the stick, it's very hard for you to get it down. You either have to YY or you have to just hit that scope again. It's more actions to do one thing. Okay, now I'm going to show you an example of how I like to use Smart Scope on the left trigger, because it is much more responsive. I mean, look how fast I can activate this Smart Scope, but where if I go into a Bumper Jumper layout, and I'm just going to click as fast as I can't nearly activate it as fast. And actually, when I'm clicking this, I can't keep my finger on the trigger. This is me keeping my finger on the trigger very, very slow, and then we'll go back to Hell Jumper here, and I'll just show you how crazy fast you can get that activation of that Smart Scope going. But this is not the only reason that I'm going to bring you here on Stasis today. I'm going to show you how I use this faster activation to my advantage. So one thing that I tend to do in any sort of game mode really, especially if I'm sweating really, really hard, is anytime I look down a corridor or area of the map that is kind of long range, or I expect there to be enemies, instead of just walking out and looking at where the enemies are, what I do is as I round the corner, I activate my Smart Scope. So if there's anyone in there, I'm more likely to get first shot, and I'm more likely to keep that other player's scope down so I can continue to get those 5 shots necessary for a kill. So if, say, I think there may be enemies over in that area of the map and I'm pushing, maybe through to red side, let's say I'm pushing from over here, I'm going to push through, maybe thrust up, and then I instantly activate that Smart Scope. I find that sometimes I'll get people, off guard, or if someone is doing the opposite of what I'm doing and just aimlessly, running around the map with their scope down, I can outrange those people, especially at longer ranges, even with the pistol, because the Smart Scope does give you so much more extra range, even with a weapon like the pistol. With weapons like the DMR and other weapons, it can help as well. So that might be a helpful tip. As you're running around the map, use your Smart Scope. I tend to use it very liberally when I'm running around maps, when I'm pushing in. If I have an idea that there may be enemies somewhere, I always like to activate my Smart Scope and get those first couple shots with that. Smart Scope doesn't have to be used only for precision weapons as well. It can help to increase the accuracy of your shotgun blasts and pretty much every other weapon in the game. It just makes weapons a lot easier to use. I also find it to be a little bit easier to do little trick jumps with Hell Jumper, because it's just much easier to activate those auto stabilizers and get those extra feet that you need whenever you're trick jumping. Just allow you to get a little bit more extra room when you need to be jumping from place to place, hitting jumps that you couldn't normally hit without using those stabilizers. And these don't have any tactical advantage. It's just kind of cool to show them off, and it's very easy to do with Helljumper. Not to mention, it just kind of makes the game feel a little bit more fluid. I mean, when you scope down with your sight, it makes you feel a little bit more accurate. You get a better picture of what's going on in front of you, and when you're running around the map, switching around corners with your scope out, you feel like a soldier. I don't know. I don't know if that helps your gameplay at all, but it definitely makes it feel more fun, at least in my opinion. And just before we end this video, just want to give you guys my controller settings. And you shouldn't give a shit. Controller settings is something that you need to find out for yourself. You shouldn't care what I use because it's not going to be best for you. Of course, I mean things like sensitivity. I think Smart Scope is definitely something you should all use, but sensitivity, aim acceleration, that's all something you need to figure out on your own. At the end of the day, I'm not trying to tell you how to play your game. Play the game however you want. I'm not your master. However, I hope this tips video has shown you that these are the reasons why I use Smart Scope, and I hope you think they are good reasons. I think that if you aren't using Smart Scope on the left trigger or any other button, if you play claw, just make it accessible to you, more accessible and easy to use. I think you will definitely see your scores increase and your accuracy increase as well. Thank you all for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Comment down below if you're going to be switching over to Helljumper. I love reading comments. It's my favorite part about YouTube. Try to guess below what this alternate account is being used for. It's not just for the sake of smurfing. It's going to be for a video coming out soon. And stay notable. I'll see you in the next video.